My wife smirked and told me to leave without divorce papers. But the FBI contacted her. The following day, what would you do if the person you trusted most turned your world into a lie? Imagine walking into your home, the place where memories were built, only to find a stranger's belongings scattered like an invasion. That's where Daniel Hayes found himself, heart pounding, as his wife Emily's chilling words sliced through the air. No divorce papers needed. Just leave. Her smirk was a dagger, her eyes gleaming with a secret she thought she'd buried. But what she didn't know was that Daniel wasn't just a heartbroken husband. He was a man with connections, a cybersecurity expert who'd been watching the cracks in their marriage widen. As he drove away, suitcase in tow, a cryptic call from the FBI lit up his phone, hinting at a web of deceit far darker than infidelity. Was Emily a pawn in a criminal game, or the mastermind pulling the strings? One thing was certain. The next morning, when federal agents knocked, her carefully crafted world would unravel. Buckle up for a tale of betrayal, revenge, and a man who turned heartbreak into a calculated checkmate. She smirked and said, "No divorce papers needed. Just leave." That was when I realized I wasn't dealing with the woman I married. And when the FBI called her the next morning, well, let's just say karma arrived right on schedule. I stood in the doorway, suitcase handle gripped in one hand, heart clenched in the other. Her voice still echoed through the house, sharp, smug, cold. No divorce papers needed. Just leave. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She smirked like it was all a twisted game she'd already won. Her name was Emily. We'd been married 18 years. 18 years of laughter, struggles, raising our son Ethan. Late night talks about dreams and fears, all of it now shredded like junk mail. And now she stood there, arms folded, hip cocked, watching as her new boyfriend Jake, this slick-haired, cologne-drenched punk, carried in his second duffel bag, like he was moving into a frat house. I didn't say a word. I didn't shout or throw anything. I just nodded. That's when I saw the glint in her eyes, like she wanted a reaction. She wanted me to break, but she wasn't getting it. I zipped the bag, clicked it shut, walked out the door like I was heading to the store. She didn't know who she was messing with. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, engine off, staring at the dashboard. My wedding ring still on my finger, the indentation beneath it already aching. The emotional weight didn't hit all at once. It came in small waves, the flicker of memories like ghost echoes. Her laugh, her scent, the time she held my hand while I was laid up in the hospital and said I was her whole world. Lies, all of it. The first real gut punch was seeing Jake's toothbrush already in the bathroom. That meant it wasn't a one-night mistake. This was planned, deliberate. She didn't just fall into someone's arms. She invited him in, replaced me like an old couch, and that smirk, that fucking smirk. I was halfway to my buddy Mike's place when my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but something made me swipe the screen. This is Agent Sarah Brooks with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Is this Mr. Daniel Hayes? My grip tightened on the wheel. Speaking. We've been monitoring activity at your residence and need to ask some questions. Can you confirm if a man named Jake R. Thompson is currently staying at your home? I froze. Yes. He moved in today. A beat of silence. Then she said, "You may want to sit down for this." Turns out Jake wasn't just a random rebound. He was under investigation for fraud, wiretapping, and ties to a financial crime ring spanning multiple states. And the worst part? Emily's name had come up more than once. I didn't tell the agent everything right away. I wanted to hear more, to know how deep the betrayal ran. But inside, I already knew Emily wasn't some innocent caught in a mess. She was the mess. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling of Mike's guest room, piecing together every lie she'd told me. The late nights at work, the girls' trips, the dead phone battery, all of it. The signs were always there. I was just too dumb or too loyal to see them. And now she was probably curled up next to that criminal, thinking she'd won. But the next morning, Oh, the next morning was when it all began to unravel. 7:42 a.m. Emily's phone rang while she sipped her overpriced oat milk latte in our kitchen, the same kitchen I remodeled by hand. "Hello," she answered, all fake sweet. "This is Agent Brooks. We need you to come in for questioning." Emily's smirk cracked. I pictured the coffee cup trembling in her hand. Maybe Jake was in the shower, humming some cheesy pop song. "Is this a joke?" she asked, voice rising. "No, ma'am. It's very real. We're also issuing a warrant for Mr. Thompson's arrest. We have reason to believe you were complicit in identity theft and laundering." Click. That's when the fear hit her. Because you see, Emily never asked who I really was. She married a high school baseball star turned quiet insurance broker. That's all she thought I was. But behind that, I'd spent 12 years contracting with federal agencies on cybersecurity. I saw things, I learned things, I had access, and I had receipts. This story isn't about heartbreak. It's about betrayal. But more than that, it's about revenge served cold and legal. Because Emily thought she could ruin a man, replace him overnight, and laugh about it like some reality show villain. She didn't realize I had one last move, and the game had just begun. She always thought I was boring, predictable, safe. That was her biggest mistake. The moment I left, I activated the backup drive in my truck. Encrypted logs, screenshots, call recordings, even GPS data from the tracking app she unknowingly approved 6 months ago. I'd been watching things build for a while, too scared to believe it. Or maybe just waiting for her to show her true colors so I wouldn't doubt anymore. I watched her lie over and over. I watched her meet Jake at that seedy motel on Lincoln Street. Watched her feed our son lies about Pilates classes while she was out doing things I won't say aloud. She thought she was clever. She thought deleting texts meant they were gone. But nothing is ever truly gone. I emailed everything to Agent Brooks before sunrise. By 9 a.m., Emily's world was turning to ash. I heard from Mike. His cousin still lived near our house. She saw 2 black SUVs pull up while Jake was in the driveway, shirtless, flexing his fake tan muscles like a bad TV extra. He didn't flex so hard when they cuffed him. He didn't smile when they opened his car trunk and found a burner laptop full of stolen identities. And Emily, she tried to slam the door on the agents. My Emily, who once cried when a sparrow hit her windshield, now screaming at federal officers like a cornered animal. She didn't know the security camera I installed last year, supposedly for porch thieves, had recorded everything, including her talks with Jake about draining our savings before I caught on. She called me 20 minutes later. I didn't answer. The voicemail was pure chaos. "Daniel, what the hell is going on? They took Jake. They're saying crazy stuff about fraud, and you better not be behind this. Call me now." I played it twice, then deleted it. I'd already packed what I needed: documents, clothes, the watch my dad gave me, the hard drive with the last 10 years of our lives stored in folders labeled important and lies. I wasn't planning to step foot in that house again. But before I left town, I had one last task. I went to the bank. She didn't know I'd changed the account access last month. I moved every cent from our joint account into a trust for Ethan. He didn't deserve to suffer for her mess. He was away on a school trip, thank God. He didn't need to see this. Not yet. Emily's card declined an hour later at some trendy cafe. She called again. "Daniel, are you serious? What the hell is wrong with you? You can't just take everything. That's illegal." I laughed out loud in public. A real laugh. The first in ages. Illegal. This woman let a criminal into my home, stole from me, betrayed me, mocked me, and now I'm breaking laws. She always underestimated me. Always. It was 3:00 p.m. when our lawyer called. He said she'd called him, ranting about emergency divorce filings and freezing assets. I told him calmly, "Let her file. I won't contest anything. She can keep the house. I don't want it." He paused. "You sure? She'll need a place for house arrest, right?" Silence then. "Well played, Dan." I drove to a cabin. 2 hours outside town, one I'd bought quietly 3 years ago as an investment. Emily didn't even know it existed. It was peaceful, secluded, surrounded by oak trees and quiet. The kind of place where a man can hear his own thoughts. I made coffee, sat on the porch, watched the sun sink behind the trees. That's when it hit me. 18 years. 18 fucking years. And I still didn't know who she was. All the anniversaries, holidays, whispered promises in bed. Lies. All of it. She probably never loved me. Maybe she did once, but somewhere she started planning her betrayal. I didn't see the curtains fall, but it didn't matter anymore because she smirked when she told me to leave. She laughed when she said, "No divorce papers needed." Now she faced 12 federal charges. No more smirks, just subpoenas. And I hadn't even started. The silence in that cabin was healing. Not the silence after a fight, but the kind after war. The kind where you realize you survived something brutal, even if you're still bleeding inside. I didn't feel triumphant. Not really. I wasn't some cold mastermind without a heart. I was a man who gave everything to a woman who didn't flinch when she threw it away. The next morning, I got a message from Ethan's school. His teacher said he'd heard something from another kid. Something about his mom on the news. My stomach sank. That wasn't how I wanted him to find out. I called him. "Hey, Dad." His voice was small, cautious, like he was testing the waters. "Hey, buddy, you okay? Why's Mum in trouble?" I closed my eyes. There it was, the moment every father dreads. She made some bad choices, Ethan. Ones that hurt people. The police are looking into it. It's not about you, okay? He was quiet. "Did she cheat on you?" I nearly choked. My 12-year-old son, saying it so plainly, like it was just another math problem. "Yeah," I said softly. "She did." More silence. "Are you mad?" "I was," I admitted. "But now I'm just sad. For her, for me, for you. But we'll be okay." He didn't speak for a while. Then, "Can I stay with you when I get back?" That broke me. "Always," I whispered. By the time we hung up, I realized something odd. I hadn't cried yet. Not once. Not when I packed my life into 2 bags or heard her whispering to Jake while I pretended to sleep 2 weeks earlier. I'd held it in, controlled it. But now, alone with the scent of oak and coffee, I let go. I cried for the man I used to be, for the dreams that wouldn't come true, for the family now a crime scene. Later that day, Agent Brooks emailed. Jake had cracked, spilled everything. His contacts, fake companies, offshore accounts, even admitted to stealing my info while living in my house. Emily's name came up multiple times. They had a strong case now. Emily was officially a co-conspirator. I had one last move. I sent her a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real, ink-on-paper letter, folded neatly. It said only, "No divorce papers needed. Just stay. You'll be there a while." No signature, no threats, just her words thrown back like a razor-sharp boomerang. Mike called that evening. The news had picked up the story. Emily and Jake's faces were plastered on local TV. The report was vague but brutal. Suburban couple. Under federal probe for cybercrimes. The online comments were vicious. People aren't kind to con artists who play house in someone else's life. Emily tried calling 7 times that day. I didn't answer. Didn't block her either. Let her scream into the void. That night, I opened an old photo album. We looked happy in those pictures. Truly happy. Vacations, birthdays, even boring Wednesdays. I searched the smiles for signs of who she'd become, but I couldn't find them. Maybe she changed. Or maybe she was always that way and just got tired of pretending. Either way, I saw it clearly now. This wasn't about me not being enough. It was about her never being real. She needed chaos, fed on it. When there was none, she created it. I was her stability, her cover, her safety net. When she didn't need it anymore, she burned it down. But fires sometimes clear the land for new growth. And I was already planting seeds. The next time Emily called, I let it ring until voicemail. Her voice was hoarse, shaky, desperation replacing arrogance. Daniel, please, just call me. They're saying things I don't understand. I didn't know what Jake was doing, I swear. You know me. This isn't fair. We can fix this. I need you. She paused, like she thought silence would make me rush to save her like I used to. Please. Click. That please meant nothing. Not after watching her unlock the door for another man with her keys. Not after she laughed while that loser carried a bag into my bedroom. I knew the difference between a mistake and a plan. Emily didn't trip into someone's arms. She built a secret life while pretending to be my partner. Now, with the lights on, she scrambled for cover. I forwarded the voicemail to Agent Brooks. Let her dissect the lies. I was done. That night, I drove into town for dinner, my first time leaving the cabin in days. Sat alone in a quiet booth at a roadside diner. Steak and black coffee in front of me. A young waitress, Lily, took my order. She had kind eyes. I could tell she saw I looked wrecked, but she didn't ask. Just brought my food, refilled my cup, smiled like I wasn't made of broken glass. I appreciated that more than I expected. On the way back, my phone lit up with a text from Emily. You're seriously throwing away 18 years after everything. I stared at the screen. The nerve of her, acting like I was the one throwing anything away, as if she hadn't torched our marriage and danced on the ashes. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the FBI email again. They'd attached photos from the house search. Evidence, they said. I scrolled slowly. There was the guest bedroom drawer where Jake stashed flash drives with stolen data. The hidden compartment in our garage. Emily's handwriting on receipts and ledgers. The burner phone under my side of the bed. That one hurt. Not because it was clever, but because it was cruel. She hid her lies in the one place I thought was still ours. But you know what? I didn't feel hate. Not anymore. Hate takes energy. She didn't deserve that. She deserved consequences. And they were coming. The next day, Emily's sister, Lauren, called out of nowhere. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She sounded frantic. Daniel, you need to know. Emily's saying you set her up. That this is some twisted revenge plot. She's telling the family you planted stuff to frame her. I laughed. For real? She's claiming I framed her for federal crimes. I know it's insane, Lauren said, voice dropping. But she's spiraling, blaming everyone but herself. Of course she was. That's what people like her do. They lie until the lies become their truth. They rewrite the story to play victim, to live with themselves. Let her spin her tales to whoever would listen. The FBI didn't run on gossip or fake tears. They had evidence. They had Jake. They had everything. I hung up with Lauren and stared at the wall. There was a framed photo on the cabin's shelf, left by the previous owner, an old couple on the porch, smiling like the world never touched them. I wondered if I'd ever have that, if I'd trust again, love again, or even want to. But I knew one thing. I'd never let anyone make me feel invisible again. Emily treated me like furniture, a placeholder, the guy who paid bills, fixed the sink, said, I love you, out of habit. She thought I was safe, predictable, powerless. But I was never powerless. I was patient. And now, she had all the time in the world to think about that. The next few days were a blur of legal calls, texts I ignored, and long hours in the cabin's quiet, letting everything settle. Every time my phone rang with an unknown number, my chest tightened, waiting for the next chapter of this mess. But something shifted. Between the shock of betrayal and the frustration of piecing it together, I started feeling something else, clarity. Emily had spent so long rewriting the narrative, painting me as the villain, that I'd almost lost sight of who I was. I was the guy who worked hard, showed up for his family, supported her dreams, even when she didn't reciprocate. But now, with her lies exposed, I was done pretending I didn't see what she'd become. I'd let her tear me down too long, make me feel small, weak, like I was the problem in a marriage rotting from the inside. The truth was simple. Emily didn't care, not in the way that mattered. She cared about what I could give her: status, security, the illusion of a perfect life, while she lived her desires behind my back. And the worst part, she thought I wouldn't find out, thought I was too stupid, too naive to connect the dots. I wasn't, and I'd never be that man again. When the next call came, it was the one I'd been expecting. "Agent Brooks, I have news," she said, her tone professional, but with a hint of satisfaction. "We've got a court date set. Jake's taken a plea deal, and we're moving forward with charges against Emily. The investigation into her accounts is moving faster than expected." I sat up straighter, the word charges sinking in, and I felt no guilt. "Good. Anything else I need to know?" "There's more," she said. "We've traced money moved before and after the affair started. She wasn't just stealing from you, Daniel. She was laundering money through your accounts. It's serious." My mind raced. I'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made it real. She'd stolen from me, used me as a cover, and thought she could walk away. I closed my eyes. The poor calm I'd held for days cracked, and I let myself feel something new: anger. "Good luck with her," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But don't think she'll get off easy. She's going to pay." The call ended, and I sat in silence. Something had shifted. I wasn't just waiting for justice. I wasn't relying on the FBI alone. I was taking control of the narrative, ensuring she understood what it meant to betray me, to tear my life apart without a thought. And the best part, I didn't need to lift a finger. I let her think she'd won, that she'd walk away unscathed, let her spin her lies, pretend I was the one in the wrong. I didn't care anymore. But when the dust settled, she'd realize who I was, and she'd regret it. She'd understand the weight of what she'd done. By the time Ethan returned from his trip, everything would be different. He wouldn't live in the shadow of his mother's lies. I wouldn't let him. I made a promise that day, to myself and my son, that I wouldn't just survive this. I'd rise above it, because I knew the truth, and no one, especially not Emily, could take that from me. The last time I saw her, when the agents came to arrest her, I stood in the doorway watching her struggle in handcuffs, her eyes wild with panic. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was relief. She was finally facing consequences. And I was free. Free from her lies, her betrayal, from the woman who never saw me for who I was. She looked at me then, through the haze of fear. For a split second, I saw regret. But it was too late. I'd already left her behind. Weeks later, the full scope settled in. I stayed quiet, focusing on getting Ethan into a routine. It wasn't easy. The change was massive. He had questions, and I answered with painful, necessary honesty. "She's never coming back, right?" he asked one night, sitting beside me on the couch, looking up with eyes so like mine, yet filled with a sadness I couldn't fix. I ruffled his hair, forcing a smile despite the tightness in my chest. "No, buddy," I said softly. "She's not." We didn't talk about it much after that, but the silence wasn't avoidance. It was processing the devastation. Life, though, kept moving. I threw myself into work, Ethan's school events, ensuring he didn't feel alone. Days blurred. Some were better, but each felt like a fight to reclaim my stolen life. I watched the news as Emily's trial began, her name, her face everywhere. She was the story now, her tears, apologies, remorse. But none of it was real to me. I couldn't watch the live updates. I couldn't stomach her playing victim, garnering pity. I didn't need that. I needed peace. I needed closure. And I realized closure wasn't something she'd give me. I had to give it to myself. The lawyers sent the final divorce papers days later. She'd signed them. Legally, it was over, but the emotional aftermath lingered. Signing wasn't the end. It was the start of truly moving on. Months passed. Ethan and I grew closer. I enrolled him in a summer camp. We played basketball every weekend in the driveway. I picked up old hobbies. I was rebuilding piece by piece. The hardest part wasn't living without Emily. It was living for myself again. For years, I'd been someone's partner, husband, caretaker. I'd forgotten how to be Daniel, driven by my own purpose. I got back in shape, ran every morning, ate better, read books I'd shelved. Slowly, I remembered what it felt like to want more than survival. It wasn't about revenge. I'd won. That the moment I walked away, what I was reclaiming was more precious. My dignity, self-respect, my future. Months later, I ran into Lauren, Emily's sister, at the grocery store. She looked uneasy, then sighed. "Daniel, I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but..." I looked at her, the weight lighter now. "You don't need to apologize," I said quietly. "It's not your fault, it's just her." She nodded, relieved I wasn't angry. "I didn't think you'd be okay, but you seem stronger." "I am," I said, and it felt true. I am. That evening, I processed it all. Emily thought she could have it all. The life, the house, the family, the lover, the lies. She thought she could destroy my work without consequence. But she never counted on me fighting back. Not with anger or violence, but with strength. Wasn't broken. I wasn't a victim. I was free. And that was something she could never take. Sitting on the porch that evening, staring at the stars, I knew this was just the beginning. Whatever life threw at me, I could handle it. I'd found peace, not as expected, but as deserved. No one could take that, not even her. It wasn't long before things felt like they were falling into place. I woke to birds chirping, Ethan laughing. Downstairs over a school project, we were carving out a new life, ours. I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the past. Not of her. One evening at dinner, Ethan asked, "Dad, do you think we'll ever be a family again?" The question hit hard, his hope heavy. I set down my fork, took a deep breath. "No, buddy. Not like before. But we're still a family, you and me, always." He nodded, searching my eyes for hope, for trust. "I know," he said quietly. "But I'm okay. I think I'll be okay." Those words meant everything. Maybe Ethan understood. What I hadn't yet. Healing isn't perfect. It's bits and pieces, rebuilding from within. Weeks later, I visited the lake cabin we used to vacation at, one Emily and I chose years ago. Our hideaway, where everything seemed perfect. I hadn't been back since it all fell apart. I wasn't. Sure, I was ready, but I needed to face it, not to fix what was broken, but to close the chapter. I drove alone, the long road ahead. As I neared the turnoff, the familiar knot in my stomach wasn't fear or grief. It was recognition. I wasn't the man who stood there with her, hoping for better. I parked, the sun dipping below the trees. I stood outside, taking it in. The lake shimmered, same as always, but it held no power over me. Just a place, a memory. I stepped inside. The old furniture, the couch patterns, the kitchen table where we laughed. It felt distant, someone else's life. Not mine, not ours. Walked room by room, letting memories flood in. So many good times, so many real moments, but also lies, hidden truths I couldn't see. I wasn't angry or bitter. I was grateful for the strength to walk away, for Ethan, for not losing myself. I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. It was time to let this place go, emotionally. I'd return with Ethan when he was ready, but I'd already released it. I locked the door, walked to the truck. I wasn't running or clinging to the past. I was moving forward, with confidence, with peace. The drive home felt like heading towards something new, better, defined by what I wanted, what we wanted. The house felt truly mine, walls, furniture, and the man inside. I belonged in this new life. I was grounded, whole, unafraid of the future. I'd learned the hardest lesson. I could survive anything. I could rebuild. No one, Emily or otherwise, could take my peace. Days later, a letter arrived, neatly folded in an envelope with a legal seal. I thought it was FBI-related or trial news, but it was from Emily's lawyer requesting a meeting. I didn't hesitate. There was nothing to discuss, but this was inevitable. She probably thought she could fix things or needed something. I'd handle it calmly, purposefully. At the lawyer's office, I was surprised to see Emily there. She sat across from me, a stranger. No smugness, no manipulation. She looked tired, small, vulnerable. "Daniel," she said quietly, voice shaky. "I didn't expect you here." I sat, back straight, posture confident. I was in control, not the man clinging to memories, not the one she betrayed. "Why are you here, Emily?" I asked, tone neutral but firm. "What's left to say?" She looked at her hands, fidgeting. "I know I can't undo it," she said, voice cracking. "I hurt you. I just want to say, I'm sorry for everything." I let her words hang, let her feel their weight, let the silence stretch as she waited. "Sorry," I repeated, voice cold. "Sorry doesn't fix what you did. Sorry doesn't erase years of lies, manipulation, betrayal." She flinched. Good. She needed to feel the truth sting. "I know," she whispered. "I just wanted to. I don't know. Make it right. I've lost everything, Daniel." "Everything?" I asked, lips curling. "What you've lost is nothing compared to what you took from me. You took my trust, my family, my peace." Her face hardened, hand trembling as she reached across. "Please, I know I messed up, but we've been together so long. Doesn't that mean anything?" I looked at her hand, then pulled back, shaking, my head. "You used that history as a weapon, Emily," I said, leaning forward. "You manipulated me, kept me in line. You made me feel like I wasn't enough while living another life." I stood, towering over her. "You want to fix this? Too late. You don't get to apologize and expect it all to magically fix. You destroyed me. You destroyed us. No anger, no venom, just clarity." I'd let go of the pain, the resentment. I wasn't broken by her actions. I'd rebuilt from the ground up, and I wouldn't let her drag me back. Emily sat, eyes brimming with tears. She opened her mouth but stopped, searching for words that didn't exist. "You can go now," I said, turning to the door. "We're done." I walked out, got in my car, took a deep breath. It was over. No more chasing ghosts, no more making sense of the broken. The drive home wasn't heavy. It was freeing. I'd learned I was stronger than I'd ever known. When I got home, Ethan was on the couch flipping channels. He looked up, and for a moment, I saw my own uncertainty in his eyes from weeks ago. But as I smiled, his fear faded. He knew we'd be okay. I sat beside him, pulled him into a hug. "How was your day?" I asked, easing us back to normal. "It was all right. Mrs. Carter gave us cookies in class," he said, smiling faintly. I smiled back, the weight lighter than it had been in months. "Sounds good, huh? Ice cream later?" "Yeah," he said, grin widening. "Perfect." Sitting there, I knew that no matter what, I had Ethan and my peace. That was enough. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Emily or anyone to validate me. I was whole, and as long as I kept moving forward, I would stay that way. The next few weeks passed slowly, peacefully. I focused on what I'd neglected: gym, cooking, evening walks when the weather was nice. It was rediscovering lost parts of myself. No rush, no pressure, just a steady rebuilding rhythm. Ethan and I spent more time together than ever. Fishing trips, weekend hikes, even got him into cooking. Every night, we'd sit at the kitchen table and talk. Sometimes about nothing, sometimes everything. He'd share about school friends, video game obsessions, math homework frustrations. I'd listen, nod, offer advice. Remind him I was there, always. One afternoon, Agent Brooks called again, voice calm and clear. Daniel, just an update on the case. We've got a solid conviction against Emily. Jake's plea deal went through. He's facing a long sentence. We've tracked some of the money she moved and frozen assets tied to her fraud network. I sat, her words sinking in. No joy, just gratitude for closure, for knowing she couldn't ruin more lives. I appreciate the update, I said, voice steady. I just want to move forward now. We'll ensure she doesn't hurt anyone else, Brooks assured. She'll be held accountable. But Daniel, you were right to trust your instincts. It's not easy to stand up, especially when it's someone you love. You didn't give up, and that made the difference. I didn't respond right away. I hadn't stood up for her. I'd stood up for myself, for Ethan, for us. After hanging up, I stepped outside, breathing the cool evening air. The weight of months was lighter. Despite what was taken, I had so much. Ethan, my health, my peace, my future. That night, Ethan and I ate ice cream on the porch, watching the sunset. A small moment, but everything. As we talked about the upcoming school year, his high school hopes, I realized we weren't defined by the past's mistakes. Dad, Ethan said, breaking the silence. Do you ever think about the future? I smiled. All the time. It's not about perfection. It's about making it ours. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. He grinned. Good, 'cause I don't know what's coming, but I think we can handle it. Right, I said, smiling back. It wasn't just surviving. It was living, and I'd learned how again. So we moved forward, not because we had to, but because we could. The future was open, and I was ready. No longer shackled by the past or those who tried to tear us down. Together, Ethan and I would take on whatever came, step by step, without fear. That's all that mattered. In the ashes of betrayal, where trust once stood, Daniel Hayes discovered a truth that resonates far beyond his story. Resilience is not the absence of pain, but the courage to rebuild from its ruins. His journey through Emily's deception, her calculated lies, and the audacity of her smirk taught him that love, when blind, can obscure the sharpest warnings. Yet, it was in the wreckage of his 18-year marriage that he unearthed his own strength, a quiet power forged not in vengeance but in self-discovery. The lesson here is profound. No one can steal your worth unless you surrender it. Daniel's refusal to let Emily's betrayal define him offers a beacon for anyone navigating the shadows of broken trust. Reclaim your narrative, not through bitterness, but through purpose. Whether it's safeguarding a child's heart, as Daniel did for Ethan, or rediscovering passions long buried. Betrayal may burn the past, but it also clears the ground for growth. Trust again, but wisely. Love again, but fiercely guard your peace. Life's deepest wounds are not the end. They are the forge where resilience is shaped. Daniel's story whispers to us all. When the world tries to break you, rise, rebuild, and never let anyone dim the light you carry within.